So now that we looked at how to get rid of a background in order to isolate objects, and then how to also wrap text around complex objects, I want to show you actually the inverse of that, which is to have the text take on the shape of the object. And so to do that, it's best to work with something that has a simple shape if you're wanting to have the image not show at all. But if you're going to have the image show some, you could play around with it a little bit. But you kind of need large, simpler shapes for this to work well. At least when you're first starting out, you can try to get more complex as you go along. But again, look at the legibility of your text on the page when you're working this kind of way. So what I've done is I'm going to go ahead and place in here. I've actually gotten this BC Rich Warlock guitar from the internet that I want to work with as an example. I'm going to size it down a little bit, and for this I don't really, I don't want it running off of the sides of the page, so I'm going to go ahead and size it down, and I actually want to go ahead and change it up just a little bit here. I'm going to transform it a little bit. I'm going to scale it. Oh, oops, not scale it. I'm going to rotate it actually. And so yeah, I'd already figured out 15% was a pretty good way to do it. I might go ahead and size it down just a little bit more. Make sure we have plenty of room for our text to go on here. Alright, so there may be some that come outside these edges, but it shouldn't be too bad. If we were to print it, we would have to make sure that it would fit on the page whenever you go into your print settings, but we'll worry about that later. So I've gone ahead and set it in here. I'm going to go ahead and do my text wrap here, so have it wrap around the object. I can do this here. Right now I don't want to have it set for anything. I want to go ahead with my alpha channel like we did last time, and then I've copied some text about metal guitar, right? And again, whenever we place text, it's going to start with whatever's top, no matter whether it's left or right. It's going to go ahead and start with whatever's at the top and work its way down. And so this will be kind of interesting because it will actually start from the top right and sort of like when you read it, it would actually work its way kind of down this way. And then once it starts picking up in the left over here, you'll have words over here, and then it'll kind of jump over this way. So it'd be kind of an interesting way of reading stuff. It can be kind of fun. But let me go ahead and get this all covered here. So cover really my whole guitar, and then paste. So alright, go ahead and set my text right back up on the guitar. And as you see, right, it moved around it just like we had in the last one, right? Kind of came into these spaces. So it's, that's a cool way to do it if you want to do it this way. But I'm going to show you actually another way, which is with our guitar selected, I'm going to actually invert. And as you see, the text seems to have disappeared, and then we've got our little box down here at the bottom right showing that there is hidden text, and we'll deal with that in a little bit. But what I first want to show you is, you might not be able to see it, it's kind of easier to see here in this white part, is that the text actually now has come into the guitar itself, into the guitar body. Now in order to see this better, I'm going to select the guitar, I'm going to right click and go to effects, and here's where we're going to play with the transparency some. Now you can play with it in different ways, right? You could actually have it where it's possibly legible, but you can still see the guitar behind it. You can do that in different degrees, and that sometimes helps you when you're first setting it up to see how much of that headstock do you want. Do you want to keep is the actual identification as a as a Warlock guitar important, or just, you know, that sort of, you know, if you will, essence of guitarness, you know, important enough, right? So, so for right now, I'm going to go ahead and tell it okay, and go with that. But of course, I do have some text that's missing, and so I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to play around with the size of the font. I actually think there's quite a bit probably missing, so I'm going to go ahead and Control A to select all. Come to character, right? Resize it some, resize it maybe some more, and as you see, right? So because it takes up more, or it fills in kind of more with the smaller fonts, you can get a little bit more of that shape, which will be kind of nice if we decide to then go without having the guitar itself visible at all. Now we can play with it a little bit, maybe get rid of these extra spaces. Let me Control All again. I'm going to actually go down. Alright, see, we get even more when we take it down into 9 point. You know, so we might be kind of pushing it as far as, you know, the ability to read it well. Maybe I don't want these to be two different paragraphs. Maybe I want to go ahead and make it one. I could do something to maybe make it appear, you know, I mean, we can leave it like that. That's kind of an interesting way to do it, because it still moves around and takes on those contours, right? We can make some parts smaller and some bigger if you want. We can go ahead in here and say, okay, well, maybe this part needs to be a little bit smaller so it fills in better. Right? You know, it does make the fonts different even within that same paragraph. But again, when we're playing around with things like this, you really do get to where it becomes its own artwork, with reshaping and playing around with the text itself, right? So I'm actually going to play with it a little bit right here in order to, let's see what happens if I maybe come into a paragraph and tell it not to hyphenate, right? So it might make it a little more legible as far as reading across, instead of jumping from, you know, it cut off with class before and you had to sort of jump across here. You know, we can do that in other spaces as well. Make some parts again smaller if need be. Maybe here within the neck, right? So even if I'm going to make the text on the neck smaller, unless I go ahead and only highlight just those individual words, so I'd have to actually, you know, click on each word to make them smaller, which again you can do. But let's see what happens if I just go ahead and make some of these things here just a little smaller. 8 point, right? You know, brings in a little more, but again, we do have text that is missing, that's hidden kind of down here, and we can actually find out how much by clicking in here and seeing, right? So there's a good bit. Now, there's a number of things we could do. Maybe we bring in an amp, or maybe we could take the pen tool and you know, maybe have a line come across here to where it'd be like this long chord or something like that. Maybe a musical staff or something like this. There's a number of different things we could do to play around to make this text also come into play and not just be a chunk, or it could just go onto another page, right? If this were maybe part of a longer discussion on guitars or heavy metal music or something like this, you know, it could be it could even start here on this part and then go on to other pages. My thing was, I wanted to at least show you how to do this over here to have the text take on the shape of the guitar or some kind of image like that, And again, I mean, we could even go ahead with the effects again, go back into the transparency, and if we wanted, we could just actually make the guitar completely transparent to where then we are only left with the words taking up that shape. Right? Let's go to preview. So, right, might have to play a little bit with stuff to kind of take care of like a gap here, or in other spaces. But the thing is, right, you can add in other kinds of things to give this. You could do some probably pretty interesting things here with this. So give that a try with some kind of image. Again, something relatively simple is a good way to go, especially if you are going to get rid of all of the image itself and just let the words take on that shape. Or I do have another page down here where about Dallas, and so you can still see it takes on the skyline, but not so well as to not look that great without the building still kind of showing, right? Because otherwise you sort of have just these blocks, and so it kind of helps to have at least some of the city itself showing.